Vox Box Podcast, episode 38. Ugh. Well, now we know what would happen if H.R. Gieger had made Star Wars.
What is thy bidding, my master?
There is great disturbance in the force.
The Vox Box Star Wars Podcast. Your source for Star Wars comics, news, and more. And now your host, Michael Corley.
Welcome back to Vox Box Star Wars Comic Book Podcast. I'm your host, Michael Corley. Thank you so much for tuning in. Today, we are covering Star Wars number 38. It is titled Riders in the Void. We open with Luke and Leia. They are running for their life in a spaceship. There is an Imperial cruiser and TIE fighters coming after them. Leia is saying, "Luke, we've been betrayed." They had come to this place to get supplies from smugglers, but the smugglers have double-crossed them. Luke is saying that he only needs another second or so to make the jump into hyperspace. Right before they leap, however, the rear shield is pierced and something is damaged. However, they still make the jump, but something is wrong. Everything is going crazy as they are trying to leap through hyperspace. It's like the ship is trying to tear itself apart. They finally are able to pull themselves back into sublight. Luke has no idea what's going on, but he does know that the hyperdrive was affected. They've gone too fast and too far. They are beyond the galaxy. They are somewhere in the void. Luke is saying that if they can stop somewhere, anywhere, he can get repairs going to get them going again. He tries putting on emergency beacon, but that's when they notice an object in the sky that was not there before. But when they try to communicate with it, all that comes across is distant laughter. The object comes close, and suddenly it's right upon them. It's gigantic. It's a huge, bulbous, green thing. There's no describing it. It's somewhere between a ship and a living organism. They get near it and it glows brightly, and suddenly they are swallowed into the ship. Inside are other objects, but strange. Luke is saying that the atmosphere is compatible, at least as far as breathing is concerned. But as he looks at the docking bay, it looks as if the machinery had been, well, in order to answer what it had been, that means that it's time for
Dramatic Reenactment.
And though it may sound just a touch provincial for a former senator and a seasoned intergalactic traveler, I don't like it. In fact, I get a very uncomfortable feeling of being watched or studied.
That reading of Leia expressing concern about this strange organic ship was by Nikki Bloom from the 501st podcast. The 501st is a group of Star Wars fans who focus on making amazing costumes of the villains of the Star Wars universe. They've made thousands of appearances to support local communities and charities. I'm in awe of the work they do. You can check out their podcast at 501st.com/podcast. You can also hear more about it in Nikki's own words at the end of this show. Thanks, Nikki. You are an awesome Leia. As you heard from the dramatic reading, as they're trying to get their bearings, they hear the mysterious laughter when suddenly the ground below them sinks and they fall separately through two different places in the ship. Luke falling into a huge chamber and Leia coming down a slide. Leia is saying that if their captor thinks that she is more vulnerable, just because she's separated from Luke, he has another thing coming. She has brought her blaster, and when strange tentacles begin to grow out of the ground towards her, she hits them. But the only response is laughter. Luke falls through the chamber and lands on huge green cushions. It is stunning, but his body is young and strong, and he is honing himself in the ways of the Force, when suddenly something bursts out of one of the green blobs. It is a silver droid, and it has a form of a lightsaber. It is saying, "Fast reactions, I like that. Good challenge, makes it interesting. Like the saber too, analyzing it, duplicating it. Good touch. too bad it's over, so... And that's when Luke blocks the blow. This droid clearly is able to anticipate its opponent's moves, but Luke has an unknown element that it can't compensate for. It cannot sense the Force, and Luke is using that to block its blows. Each one should be a killing stroke. It keeps thinking that it has the final blow that will destroy him. However, Luke is able to keep barely blocking its blows. Luke realizes that if he doesn't do something fast, it's going to continue to analyze his moves, and no matter how much force he uses, eventually it will wear him down. Luke swings and misses. The droid thinks that he has failed, but Luke whirls with the missed blow, does a complete 360-degree turn, and cuts the droid's head off with his lightsaber. Even though the droid is destroyed, he still hears the voice that was coming out of the droid. It is saying, "Impossible, impossible. It is not in the programming for you to win. Only if you're real, you exist. Enemies in the ship." It is saying, "No one else belongs here. This ship belongs to me. No one else, no one." We see Leia is beginning to be wrapped up by the various tentacles as she's trying to blast herself free. They just keep coming and coming. Suddenly, a side of the ship opens and Luke is being pulled out into the void of space. So is Leia. Luke's only option is to force himself, to angle himself as he's flying towards the vacuum of space, to slam into a column on the side of the wall. It is, of course, incredibly painful, but the air currents that were just previously pulling him out are now holding him against the wall, and that's when he sees Leia hurtling towards him. He yells at her to twist this way. He reaches out his hands, and he grabs her, but now Luke is being pulled out towards the void using his leg. He hooks it over a protrusion from the column. He's yelling at her that he won't let her die. She's saying, "Luke, save yourself." And he says, "No, I love you, Leia. I won't lose you." And that's when he yells at her, "You're slipping." She says, "Luke, it's no use." And it's true. He can't hold on anymore. Except other forces are involved. We see the hole ripped in the side of this vessel slowly close. And just as Luke loses his grip, suddenly she is not being pulled out into space. And that's when we realize why. The voice says, "You care for each other. I had forgotten about such caring. I've forgotten many things." Whatever it is opens a side of the wall and lets them through. And we see a creature who is sitting in a chair. He seems to be bonded to the chair. He's saying, "Here, don't be afraid. I was once like you. Before I became one with the ship, one with the computer. Watch the screen. I'll show you how it used to be." He is telling them a story of war, when giant ships destroyed one another. There was one last battle, and his ship survived. The war was over. His crew came home and became victors only to find that their planet had been destroyed by a plague bomb. The plague had a corrosive agent that even got through space armor. Only this pilot was able to make it back to his ship, and he began to roam beyond the galaxy, riding through the void. In time, he fused with the ship, his consciousness symbiotically linked to the systems of the ship. He had nothing to do but to play games on the ship, play games with itself. And so when Luke and Leia entered the ship, he didn't recognize them as beings other than the games that he played. As he is talking, we see the galaxy, their galaxy, appearing on the monitor. It is taking them home. However, as it returns them to their original jump place, the Empire is still there. And when the ship arrives, the Imperial cruiser, of course, does what the Imperials always do. They shoot first and begin destroying this giant ship. The pilot is saying, "Pain. I feel pain. No fun in that. You're making it too real." Luke is trying to warn him, saying that this enemy, the Empire, is just as deadly as the ones who released the plague in your galaxy. They won't stop until we're all dead. Very casually, it opens, and these giant white objects, they look like white blood cells, float out and begin destroying the TIE fighters, and they make their way toward the Imperial vessel and disintegrate it. And it's saying, "All over now. You can safely return to your vessel, and I will return to my games. Luke is offering, it's a big galaxy, why not stay here? And the pilot is saying, your galaxy is too real, my friends. It reminds me of another, which I travel light years to escape. I wish you well, but I see now that I belong to the void. Riding, me, the ship, computer, our games. May you in time win happiness. Mine is out there. And as they hear the laughter coming over the communicator, they can't tell whether the laughter is gleeful or simply mad. It's difficult to tell, and very shortly it is gone. And that ends Star Wars number 38. And why did we have this little story that didn't move the story forward? It's clearly because they were preparing for a very minor thing you might have heard of. And that is, of course, The Empire Strikes Back. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. If you stay with me next week, we will begin to cover the comics covering The Empire Strikes Back. You have a wonderful day, and may the Force be with you.
No! You failed, Your Highness. I am a Jedi, like my father before me.
So be it, Jedi.
Thank you for listening to the Vox Box Star Wars podcast. Go to voxboxpodcast.com to see panels from today's comic. Have a great day, and may the Force be with you.
Greetings, this is Nikki, DZ8397 from the 501st Cast, the official podcast for the 501st Legion. The 501st is an international Star Wars costuming organization with just over 8,000 members worldwide. We focus on replicating the costumes of the bad guys in the Star Wars universe. Since 1997, we make thousands of appearances worldwide each year to support our communities, local charities, and spread the love of Star Wars. Check us out online at 501st.com/podcast and on Facebook and Twitter. Long live the Empire. Long live the Empire.